part of this series. And today we're in chapter 3 of the Gospel of Mark. And today I wanted to focus on Jesus putting together his team of disciples. In Bible times, that word disciple was not just a pupil who was taught by a teacher. It's not kind of just a student thing, although it's good to study and it's good to listen carefully to teaching about Jesus. But disciple meant dedicated follower. That's dedicated follower. Someone who listens to what Jesus says and was then careful to do it. So it refers to someone who takes up the ways of someone else, who follows closely, who applies Jesus' teaching to their own life and learns from Jesus as they start to live like him. So that's what a disciple is. And the first of these disciples, you're one now too, I'm one, everybody who believes in Jesus is a disciple. But the first of these disciples, the first bunch of disciples, Jesus picked himself. So what was it like to be a disciple? Well, there's three aspects to this. There's three aspects to following Jesus. The first one is this: disciples worship. Now that isn't about singing, although singing can be part of it. It means Jesus is number one in our priorities. And we've taken like an intentional decision that our decisions, what we do, is going to be based on his word and his ways. Not just the philosophies that go around in the world or our best ideas, but his word and his ways. And in practice, people rely on all sorts of things in their lives. They rely on money, career, family, the opinions of friends, the opinions of society, the opinions of the newspapers and the TV and so on. And when the pressure of life comes in on those things, they become their fallback method of making decisions and reacting to situations. But a disciple reacts differently. A disciple gives place to Jesus and determines that he'll follow him no matter what comes along. Now, the second aspect of being a disciple, disciples serve and bless others. You know, as a servant, Jesus said to his disciples, "If then your Lord and teacher has washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I've given you an example that you should do it just as I've done it." There's that discipleship again. You should do it just as I've done it. And that's actually from a different gospel from the one we read. That's actually from John's gospel in chapter 13. But in one sense, this posture of the servant should characterise us as Jesus' followers on all fronts. But in another sense, being a servant like Jesus has a particular focus on disciples serving disciples. It's firstly carried out amongst the community of believers. It's a family thing, and you're part of the family. Paul told people, let's do good to everyone, and especially to those who are part of the household of faith. So look after those you're in church with, look after those you know in your church family, and help them and serve them and be there for them. And so the third part of this being a disciple, so we've had worship, that's making Jesus number one, serving and blessing others, and the third part is being a witness. You see, Jesus' followers on a mission, and in its broadest sense, that means kind of we're missionaries. We're all missionaries. You don't have to go off to a strange foreign country to be a missionary. We're all missionaries. And we're envisioned and empowered to step into the world as Jesus' witnesses. And to be a disciple of Jesus means to point people to him. It means to tell the story of Jesus and his love so that others discover that and get to know him and follow him too. Put really simply, it means to share your story of how Jesus has changed you and is changing you. What your life was like before you came into it, and what you were like after you met him. And how that came about. It's just sharing your story. Just tell people what Jesus has done in your life. That's it for today. Tomorrow I'm going to be back and we're going to be looking a bit more at being a disciple. And so just have a quick read of chapter 3 again, and I'll see you tomorrow.
you.